Yeah, actually, to go off that point, talked to Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers' ace pitcher that day, about Magic Johnson's birthday, since he's part owner of the Dodgers, and he complimented him. But even when I mentioned the word Tebow, he just laughed. I mean, it's been Tebow this, Tebow that, which leads to my goat, which is replacement officials. Replacement officials don't get the team's name right, they don't face the right side, and it's not like they're just being pulled off the street. They've called college games, they've called arena football games, they have experience, and they should know the rules, but something's got to give here. And speaking of lockouts, it looks like the officials themselves are going to have a lockout of their own, and that's, as much as we criticize them, they might be the godsend right now, because we're certainly getting poor pace of play. Another goat to Pirate fans who cannot seem to do the Zoltan correctly. It's left over right, not right over left. Right over left, that's an S. Left over right, that's a Z, people. So
this way it's an N.
As Vanna White Andrew demonstrates here, this is the...
This way it's an N.
Yeah, this is a W. But yeah, Pirate fans, glad to see you coming to the ballpark, but you need to show that you at least understand it. I mean, drinking's one thing, but left and right, you kind of were taught that in grade school, so learn it. And I'm going to actually give another here I made a mistake to Jim Joyce, the umpire who infamously cost Armando Galarraga a perfect game, but handled it gracefully in the aftermath. He saved a woman by giving her CPR, an employee, I believe, for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And very class gesture, and he still managed the home plate. He was the home plate umpire, rather, for that night's game still. So, you know what, good for him, good gesture. The woman's okay. She'll be released from the hospital later this week. So good for her, and just Jim Joyce is just a great guy. It's just unfortunate he got one call wrong, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. But we'll move on now, actually, to fall sports, and just briefly, what excites you just in general, not just the league, but just what excites you just from all the teams in general?
Oh boy, well, you know, I got the chance to talk to a couple people in the athletic department at Point Park just a couple of days ago. I've talked to Sports Information Director Kevin Taylor. I've talked to Dan Swalga as well. And both of those guys have told me that they're really excited for all the fall sports teams. Now in the KIAC, they're going to be ranked at number 1 or 2 or 3, pretty much all fall sports, right up there in the conference. So again, as last year we were talking about, all these sports teams had really great seasons, some even historical seasons. Again, we could see this happening again next year, or this fall. And I just think we're in for a real treat this year. It's going to be a lot of different competition. I know the travel is going to be a little tougher going to places like Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio. That'll be a little different. But in the long run, I think this is a really good choice for the Pioneers, and it's a conference where they're going to have a great opportunity to win in multiple sports, not just one. I believe volleyball was ranked number 2 or 3, men's soccer was ranked 2 or 3, women's soccer was at least on the top 5, cross country is a little further down, but we'll see how it goes. And there's about, I believe, 12 teams in this conference, so again, they're not, you know, they're not 1 or 2 out of 6 like they were in the AMC last year. They're 1 or 2 out of a dozen teams or so here, and so that's really exciting to see.
Just looking at it from a perspective, I've been at a couple volleyball practices, and they appear ready. It's going to be a very challenging schedule, especially this weekend, when they face a couple tough competitions, including competition in the Indiana Tech team that knocked them out of the national tournament last year, actually. So little chance for redemption here. And the nucleus returns. There's a couple senior losses, a couple of not senior losses, but a couple big players are coming in, freshmen coming in looking great so far, and you also have someone coming in from Switzerland, so that's very exciting to see as well, bring a different style of play. And speaking of different countries, that's the motto of men's soccer pretty much. 32 different players representing 16 different countries is just very diverse, and soccer, we've talked about it over the years, just nice to see different countries demonstrate their talent for Point Park, because each country has a different personality of soccer play, and we saw what the men's soccer team did last year, and I think they could have an even better year this year. Women's soccer, they hired a new coach in Maggie Kuhn, so it's kind of unknown what's going on, but at least historically and based on the 0-0 tie scrimmage they had yesterday, the defense is still very solid, but they need offense, and they're going to have to get that offense in order to contend, or else that, number 5 ranking might be where they're put at. But if their offense is, if their offense shows up, then the sky's the limit. And they returned 10 of their 12 starters, which is a great number. But how have they improved their play? We will certainly see. But it looks like they'll have a good season. And cross country, they're trying to avoid those injury bugs that happened last time. And they're working on upper body and they're working on lower body, because if you're just working on the lower body, then it's just your legs that are pushing you through all those miles in race. And I was watching some of their workout at the Student Center yesterday, and that was exactly what one of their coaches was telling them to do, just to work all around in the body and just keep yourself healthy. We can't afford to have the injuries that we had. And also the golf team will be hitting the links again, both men's and women's, and couple good signings, one overseas from the women's golf team, and men's golf team had a very consistent year last year. Yes, they lose Austin Elder, but it'll be interesting to see what they can do. So sky's the limit for these Point Park sports teams, and I really am excited to see how all these play. I know you'll be taking care of the beat for soccer, and I'll be taking care of the beat for the second year for volleyball, and your second year in the soccer beat, I believe. So it'd be nice to see how these teams do, and we obviously report findings to you on A to Z.
And we're just both very excited. I think Point Park has 2 or even 3 teams at least in fall sports that have a real shot going to the national tournament later this year.
And let's not forget that these teams are very well coached as well. Best buddies for our beats, I guess. Mike Bruno, for the head coach for volleyball, and Jerome Wallster, the head coach for men's soccer, both were named Coach of the Year in the AMC last year, and they'll both bring a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom to their respective sports. And I think that both of those teams have a very, very good shot. Maggie Kuhn, we'll see what she does. Obviously, she has a lot to work with on the offensive side. Defensively, they're very sound. I really think that they have the capabilities of Kylie Williams, among other, offensively, and I think that the sky's the limit for them. Cross country, Jim Irvin and Tim Lyman are going to have their hands full, but I really think that they're a much healthier and fitter group this year, and will be able to avoid the injuries, and that will be the key for this team. So, and then obviously golf, Gabe Bubon's as reliable and solid as they come of a coach. He, I believe, won the award for the division as well. So it'll be interesting to see how all these teams do, and we're obviously very excited. But just, I guess, wrapping up the show, usually we do this date in sports history at this point, and we'll have a topic, but we have I guess since this is a mini show, let's just actually do a scenario here.
Sure.
You have the #1 pick in the fantasy football draft. Who do you take and why?
Well, as Zach knows, I do not play fantasy football. I know you do, Zach.
I already drafted a team.
Oh, I know that. But I'm thinking, looking at it, I'm going to have to take Aaron Rodgers. He's a guy that I think is going to just have a tremendous season as long as he stays healthy. The Packers, as we know, will put up a ton of points. He has tons of weapons and receivers, and of course his tight ends are Michael Finley. They're a team that has a little bit of question at running back, so they're going to be wanting to pass the ball more than run the ball, which they have done in the past few years. But they're in the division with a couple other tough teams and tough defenses, so we'll see how that affects them. But I think Aaron Rodgers can definitely be a great fantasy draft pick.
And to boot, he does have an improved running attack, and James Starks will start. Ryan Grant's gone, but they did sign Cedric Benson, so that's huge. Then you go with their wide receivers. You got Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, as you mentioned, Jermichael Finley. Donald Driver's not going to be a starter on this team. He's not going to be one of the top 4 at this point. You have Greg Jennings, you have Jordy Nelson, you have Jermichael Finley, obviously a tight end, Randall Cobb, just name upon name upon name. I would take a quarterback first, too, and Rodgers is obviously the top quarterback. A couple other quarterbacks obviously to key in are Drew Brees, and obviously Brees got that big extension, and he's going to be mad. He's going to be playing with a head full of steam because of what's been going on with this whole same scenario. They have a head coach, but he's kind of gone for half the season. So there's that. And obviously there's the whole Jonathan Vilma versus Roger Goodell scenario. But I think that the Saints so far have just played like their old selves, and they're they're obviously very upset. They're like that bull that's trudging their feet and just waiting to strike that opponent whenever they see that red, oh boy, you better look out. Tom Brady, of course, is always up there. Just, the Patriots are essentially a wide receiver all-star team is the best way to put it. They just keep signing wide receivers. Defense needs work, and they addressed it in the draft, but obviously when you're building defense, it's going to take time, which means Tom Brady's going to have to pass more and more and more. And obviously they have an injury to one of their running backs, and Stephen Ridley, I believe, but Shane Vereen's going to have to step up as well. And then obviously you have the two tight ends, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, just both weapons. Running backs will be interesting. There's a lot of running backs that you could choose from. Arian Foster, Maurice Jones-Drew are probably up there.
Maurice Jones-Drew, you're going to have to watch how long
exactly.
lasts.
I would avoid at all costs. He's going to be the Chris Johnson of this season. Chris Johnson's back, and he feels like he did 2 seasons ago, but last year he held out and it paid. And not in a good way.
Well,
and Darrelle Revis had the same thing happen to him a couple seasons ago as well, so you have to watch for there. Just going to real football now, though.
Sure.
I've kind of named my surprise team. Last year, I'm not going to brag. Okay, I will. I got the Bengals and I got the Lions, my 2 surprise teams, right? I mean, people kind of suspected the 49ers, but not to be that good. But with that in mind, who's that 1 or 2 surprise team or teams that you really think have a chance this year?
Boy, I'll tell you what. In their division, I think the Seattle Seahawks have a legitimate shot to be a surprise team. I like what Russell Wilson's done. I know he's a rookie. I know he's only started a couple preseason games. But I think they have a really good coach in Pete Carroll for that team. Terrell Owens has something to prove. He's going to be a weapon on offense. And really, a division that has the 49ers in it, which you know they'll be tough. But then you have the Rams and the Cardinals. A ton of questions with both of those teams. They're a team that can pile up some wins in the NFC. And then I also look for the Washington Redskins with RG3. I don't know how much of a surprise he would really be.
Just ask the ESPN, the magazine commercial we saw, little ad we saw. He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. But, he's a guy that can at least lead the Redskins to a 500 record, 8-8, maybe 9-7. I think they have a little more going for them than the Colts have, even though they have Andrew Luck, who looks fantastic. But we shall see. So I think the Redskins and Seahawks are both teams to look out for this season.
I'll start with the one that I'm certain about right now, which is the Buffalo Bills. There are some ifs with this team, which is if Ryan Fitzpatrick performs the way he did before the injury, then this team can excel. They do have a little bit of running back flux there. There's a couple guys there that can really do some wonders, and I think that they can both help. Steve Johnson, I have to be serious. Why so serious here? But I think that, he did have a little bit of injury risk, but I think that he is still very underrated, and he's known more for his mouth than his game, and I think that his game is he's a very skilled and controlled game until he gets into the end zone, but that's his celebrations, and that's what the flags are for. Defensively, Mario Williams was a huge sign they got from the Houston Texans, and he'll improve this defense tremendously, and I really think that if this defense continues, they're in a league with the Patriots, who are going to win the division, but I think the Bills could creep up and get a wild card. The Jets don't really have anything spectacular, and the rest of the division is just no. And my other surprise, I'll go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like what they have. Very young team. They're starting over with Greg Schiano from Rutgers, and obviously the Pitt Panther fans will know Schiano well, considering the whole Rutgers situation being in the Big East. But Schiano's a very gritty, tough coach that expects a lot from his players, and you're either on the ship with him, no Buccaneer pun intended, or you're off and you're gone. And huge signing, Vincent Jackson, the former San Diego Charger, is on that team. You have a couple, Doug Martin and LeGarrette Blount are both great running backs that'll be on that team, and Josh Freeman is an underrated quarterback who had an off year last season. He'll be great, and Tampa's defense has always been pretty well documented for historically, and that includes Rondé Barber, who's seemingly been there since 1893, and defense is just very skilled. So I'll go with those 2 teams. I like what both of those 2 teams have to offer.